So this is for my grade 12 class, and this builds on the stats program. And we have the stats program, which I've already created, and we're going to build on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new replit. And I am going to call it stats ICS4U because it is different, obviously. So here is the stats program that we created. Watch my previous video to find out how to create it, but I'm just going to simply take the code from that and put it in there so that we have our starting point. So there's the HTML, there's the JavaScript. There we go. Okay, so here's the stats program. Now, with the stats program, what we are going to do is we're going to create a stat class. So as the file is loaded, each student and their scores is added to an array of the stat. So it's added to the stat class, and then we loop through the array elements. So that's the key thing. So the first thing is we're going to go back to the card program. We did the card game because we have a deck class. All right, so let's just go back into here. We'll go right to the beginning of all this code. And what I'm doing is I'm just minimizing the rest of the code so it's kind of out of the way. All right, so there's our card class. So class deck. So instead of class deck, it's going to be class, we'll call it scores. And opening and closing squiggly braces. So here's my deck. And then there's the end of the deck class. So there we go. So I've created a scores, and within here, I have my different variables. So with the variables, the number sign, student, and so that these are my global variables. And there's the student and the score. There we go. So those are the two pieces of information that we are getting from that file. And let's go down here. The next thing is our constructor. So what I need here is a constructor. No. What I need to do is this is where I can set everything. So what I want to do is I want to set, and I want to set it based on what the user passes me. So I'm going to need a student information, and I'm going to need score information. So I'm just using short forms for that. So I should be able to, if you look at how I use the keyword this, so this dot student is equal to st, and this dot score is equal to sc. All right, so first off, can I run this? Do I get any errors? No errors, so that's good. And so here you can see student and score and stuff. So Bob and 75. Okay, so all I'm doing here is I'm just testing. I'm just making sure that things so scores undefined because it's private, I can't access it. Okay, so we're getting there. I can have different methods and stuff, so let's do that. So let's create a method just to show the output. So let's call it to string. And we are going to return the value of student plus score. I forgot this. Okay, so here I run this now. I should get Bob 75. Perfect. Now, I'm going to want score to be a number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to parse int that score, which shouldn't matter for what I'm doing, but now it's a number. Okay. What I want to do now is add another function where this function is going to be called getScore. Here we go. And that function is simply going to return this dot score. Okay, I think I have everything I need. Now, here's where it gets really, really cool. Right now, I've got a constructor like this, but what I can do, I can remove some of the logic from farther on. So in here, I've got this splitting and stuff. So I can do that. So watch what happens here. So I'm going to add another constructor. And here I'm going to take, I've got to call it a constructor. Now here's the deal. I have two parameters here. I have to have something different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have one parameter. So what if they just give me a line of text? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a variable called items, which is going to take the line and I'm going to split it on the comma. I'm going to assume that they've passed a comma separated item. And then my student item is going to be equal to items at item 0, and score is going to be equal to items item 1. There we go. So my score and my items are there. So let's just test this. So here, instead of I'm gonna or 2. Okay, so what I should get, a class may only have one constructor. I was sure there was a way to do that. Well, let's get rid of this constructor then. So that's no longer accurate. But Susie78 works. So this is good. We'll get rid of that. And we're good to go. So we have our scores. So now I can create an array. I'm going to call it do scores and set it to square brackets. And I'm just going to comment that out just so that I can refer to it if I need to. So down here, this is splitting the line. Do scores. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push a new score what do I call it, scores. And in the bracket, I'm just going to pass the line. All right, so I no longer need this. Because it's doing the splitting for me. And then here, I should be able to go do scores.get. So this is going to be scores.length minus 1. Score. There we go. So now I'm checking that. And if that works, I'll just replace that, which is actually a little bit more text. I totally get that. But there we go. So we've set it up as an array. Let's run this and test it out. And my lowest score worked, my highest score worked, my not a number did not work. So what happened there? So we're having the trouble here, so let's just log the total so we can let's just see what's going on there. Okay. So there's my first total 0, which makes sense, but it is treating these as text, which is why it's not adding them. So total plus equals. So I'm just going to throw this into a parse int just to force it to be treated as a number. So that's probably what my issue is. And there we go. I got my average. I got my scores. I can see with my console.log that all worked. So there we go. That's what we need to do. We've created a scores class. So it has two private variables, the student and the score. It has a constructor, and the constructor takes a line of text, so the name, comma, score, and it splits them up and then assigns them to the appropriate variables. My getScore method just returns the score, and what I can do is I can switch that to force it to be an integer. Let's just test that, see if that works. You'll notice that you do a lot of testing. Make sure. And that seems to work. So that's how to do it as a class. The class is not a big thing, but keep in mind with the class you have variables, you have a constructor, and then you have different methods. And so here I have a getScore method, and I have a toString method. And I'm not actually using this particular one, but I have that flexibility if I need it for later.